I think one of the highlights of the conversation today was, first of all, I was impressed with how broad a conversation this is, the number of stakeholders and points of interest that there are across a broad spectrum of perspectives and as I say, stakeholders in this conversation. We've heard from parents, we've heard from folks from the legal community, folks, of course, from the education community, from the policy arena, from the instructional arena. So it's very encouraging that this conference was able to bring together all of those voices to focus on these issues of what to do about accountability and what to do about equity at the same time as accountability. Well, one of the things I think I might want to add to the conversation is, as a person responsible for the development of a multi-state assessment system to build assessments aligned to the Common Core, the assessments often are viewed as sort of the bad guy in the room, if you will, as something of that sort. And I think what I'd like to add to the conversation is there is a distinction, I think, between having quality information about how students are performing in our schools and the overuse or perhaps too early use of that information in accountability systems that aren't, at this point in time anyway, mature enough for the kinds of ways in which we're being asked to use these tests to evaluate schools, to evaluate personnel, even in many instances to evaluate decisions about individual students that have a significant and serious consequence for the individual students. There are different opportunities occurring in districts and states across the nation. So it's way too early to make declarations about particular ways that these new assessments can and must be used. This is the time when we need to really search for what kinds of information do we need and what kinds of knowledge and information makes a difference for us to know what's working and what isn't working. This is a multi-layered, multifaceted circumstance we're facing. And I do think these new assessments have a role to play. But again, I think that they can in many instances have been asked to be the sole arbiter or perhaps the majority arbiter of what represents quality in our schools. And that's not the case. But that's not to suggest that these new assessments should be dismissed in their entirety.